What is going on, Diesel Nation? We're excited to have you guys with us today on the Diesel Podcast. Today's episode, I'm going to be joined by Dominic from Kershaw Knives, and he had chatted with us right after the first of the year and was telling us about some releases of the new knives and products they have. And with summer, right around the corner, we're going to be outdoors more, fishing, camping, things like that. I wanted to ask him what other knives and products they have that are just releasing. There's also a really cool giveaway that they have going on. So you're definitely going to want to tune in. Before we get to it, though, I want to encourage you guys, make sure and head on over to our Discord. We're almost at 500 members on there, which is really cool. We started it, about a year ago, a little less than a year. It's been really awesome to see it grow. The questions that you guys ask us, the suggestions that you have for episodes. It's a great place for all of us to be able to connect. I'm always on there, whether it's weekends, nights, chatting with you guys. You're going to see a link on the screen or a code on the screen and also a link down below. Just head on over. It's completely free to join. You'll find sections for Cummins, Duramax, Power Stroke, technical talk. There's a marketplace, general discussion, lots of different ways to be able to get your questions answered. Or ask me a question and say, hey, can you get this person on the podcast? I'd like to know about this injector, this turbo, this transmission. And I do my best to do that. Also, if you're looking to support the podcast even more, Patreon is a way that it allows you to participate, even deeper. You can be an executive producer for an episode. There's lots of perks that we have, and your support there goes a long way to helping us be able to grow the podcast, whether it's with equipment, things that we're doing with the website, just be able to build and continue to grow the podcast and deliver the content that you guys want to hear about. So your feedback there, as well as Discord, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, we appreciate all the support you guys have given us throughout the years. All right, let's get to today's episode with Dominic and learning what's new at Kershaw Knives. Dominic, welcome back to the Diesel Podcast. I had a lot of fun chatting with you the first time that we talked, and there was a lot of feedback and things that we got from our listeners that were like, "Hey, I've been running a Kershaw knife for years, or this one or that one," and I've been, I follow you guys on Instagram and Facebook, and I saw that you guys have a lot of new things coming up here. So I wanted to ask you, what's recently come out? What are you guys getting ready to drop? What's been new since we chatted last?
Yeah, Patrick, thanks for having me back. Really happy to be here and share some info with your listeners. But I love hearing all the time from people like, "Oh man, I run everything only Kershaw. Like I've had a Kershaw since I was like 16, and then they'll pull it out and show me. I'm like, man, we haven't made that one in a while, and it's still going." I love hearing that type of stuff. But yeah, we just released a couple weeks ago our second batch of products for the year. So we did release number 1 back in January. We just did release number 2. We did 6 new knives in that batch, plus a new keychain tool. I'm really stoked. I think a lot of our fans, this covered a wide range of knife enthusiasts and everyday users, as well as outdoors people. We had a new premium version of our butterfly knife, the Lucha, which has been super popular. The first model we did with the Lucha was really kind of a middle of the road, really affordable price point in terms of the marketplace for butterfly knives, but it was a little heavy because we had to go steel and some more materials that necessarily aren't pricey to keep the price point reasonable. And so what we did with this premium version is we did titanium handles, carbon fiber overlays, so it's a lot lighter, it flips a lot smoother. And that community seems to just be so excited about that at this point.
Yeah, one of the things that I struggled with when I was first getting into knives was the different types of blade steel that are out there, and it's like I was overwhelmed. There was all these names and abbreviations and just so many things, and I'm like, I don't know which one I should look for, what I should need. I wanted to see if you could give us like a quick rundown of what are some different types of blades or some different type of blade steel that people will see when they're looking for a knife, and then what are the main differences between them?
Definitely, that's a great question. Personally, I see with knife enthusiasts or just people that like to use knives on a daily basis kind of go through a progression with knife steel. We have everything from, our entry level kind of budget friendly steels, which are generally the Chinese made steels that are like 8CR MOV 13. The nice thing about that is it's very budget friendly. It's not super expensive. It can take the same edge that a premium blade steel can. It just doesn't hold it as long. So you do end up having to sharpen them more, but they sharpen really, really easily. And then, from there, I find that people generally, when they first kind of get into the knife market, they gravitate towards those because they're like, well, I don't know if I'm really going to end up carrying the knife every day. Is
Yeah.
it really going to be a tool that I think I'll end up using all the time? And then as they find the usefulness of it and the convenience of having one every day, they're like, oh man, I don't mind sharpening, but I wish I didn't have to do it as often, right?
Yeah.
And so they kind of progress up those levels until they find something that kind of falls in their sweet spot, whether it be, on the price point or, how long it can hold an edge for what they do or how corrosion resistant it is. So yeah, just to go through them, 8CR generally is kind of our base steel for our imported budget friendly models. On the US side, we actually helped it develop a proprietary steel that has actually spread across the marketplace now. It's our Sandvik Steel, which is found on like our Leak, our Blur, things like that. Really good middle of the road. It'll hold an edge pretty well. Still has to be sharpened somewhat frequently, but not nearly as frequently as like 8CR does. And is pretty corrosive resistant. So you could, having a knife in your pocket, it's kind of a damp environment, right? Especially if you're working in the outdoors, you're sweating, there might be raining, things like that. It's going to be a little bit more corrosive resistant, so you don't get as many of those rust spots on the blade. Because
Gotcha.
even stainless steel can still rust, right?
Right.
So and then from there, we have kind of our more premium, which we like to use a US steel on all of our automatic models. That's CPM 154. So you have a little bit more edge resistance on that, so you don't have to sharpen it as often. But again, the trade-off there is when you do go to sharpen it, it can be a little bit more difficult if you're not really familiar with what you're doing.
That kind of reminded me of a question or something I've come across too is, when I do need to sharpen it, and if you're not experienced, what are some tips or some things that you would tell somebody that when they do get to that point, they've been opening boxes, cutting open bags, using it outdoors, using it every day, how do you maintain that edge, or what are some things people should pay attention to maintain their knife?
Yeah, there's a lot of great tools out there. We just recently did a collaboration with a Kershaw fan on our YouTube channel that goes through some different methods of sharpening and different tools available and the advantages and kind of disadvantages of each of them. We offer a really convenient, like on the go honing rod that you can use, like for example, if you have 8CR and you've been doing a lot of cutting that day and you're like, it feels like I'm having to put a little bit more pressure on it, you can bust it out. You can keep it in the glove box of your truck or center console, something, give it 5 or 6 swipes on each side of the blade, and boom, you're good to go again. That's one of the nice things about 8CR is it's that simple. You really couldn't achieve much with the premium steels using a portable honing rod like that. So I would encourage people, if they're interested in learning more about, what different techniques and tools available, go to our YouTube channel and look at the knife sharpening video. We talk about whetstones, we talk about the honing rod, we talk about different aftermarket products out there that can get a really consistent angle every time. So you're getting the exact same edge every single time you sharpen, versus when you're doing it by hand on a whetstone or a honing rod, your angle is going to vary slightly.
That was something where I was like, man, this is a whole new world out there. I never thought so much about, okay, how do I sharpen it? What kind of steels are out there? It's just been really cool and kind of a journey I've been on in getting into these, things the last year or so. It's just all the different choices, all the different things. And then I'm talking with, my friends or diesel truck owners or just people in the industry, and we have these things in common, and it just opens up these conversations. And that's what's been so cool about, learning more about Kershaw, the things that you guys are doing, the things that are releasing, is just how many people I know that are carrying a knife every day, use it for work, they're using it on the job site. And, you'd mentioned the keychain tool. I wanted to learn a little bit more about that, because I've been thinking for myself, like, I may not need, specifically, a knife for opening boxes, but I need something on me to do different things. And I know there's a lot of products that you guys have, but I wanted to learn more about the keychain.
Yeah, one of the things that we see pretty frequently, and I'm guilty of this myself, I'm sure you've been guilty of it at times, is You're in a pinch and you're like, okay, I either need to tighten this screw or I need to
Yeah.
pry open this paint can or something. And you're like, I've got my knife on me. Let me just use that. Right. And, sometimes you get lucky and you don't do anything to your knife, but we see a lot of broken knife tips. We see a lot of broken edges from people trying to put the blade edge into a flathead screw or things like that. It can work. I'm not going to say it won't, because certainly I've done it myself and I know thousands of other people have done it as well, but you always run the risk of breaking it. And that's not its intended tool. That's why we have, actually quite an extensive line of keychain tools, everything that from something that's as small as the size of a key to things that are a little bit larger. But the newest one that we came out with, it's really simple. It's actually the size, I would say, smaller than a house key. So it's not intrusive on your key ring. I know carrying two phones, one for work, one for personal, my wallet, my pocket knife, my carry pistol, pocket space and things like that can be really valuable. You don't have unlimited, even in cargo pants, right? So I like something smaller like this one that we just came out with. It's called the Recap. It is a small pry bar. It also is a small flathead screwdriver tip, and it also is a bottle opener. It's super lightweight, unintrusive, doesn't take up a lot of pocket real estate, and it's really inexpensive. I think the MSRP on it is like $8.99. So it's like you throw one of those on your keychain, and you really don't have any excuse to not use your blade for prying anymore.
Yeah, that'll definitely fit a need, because like you mentioned, I run into the same thing. As I've got my wallet, I've got a phone, I've got my keychain, I've got a carry pistol, I've got all this stuff on me, and I'm like, any weight that I add or anything like that, it just I notice it right away. And there's sometimes I do need to pry something open, or there's something I need to do, and I look at the knife and I'm like, do I really want to put this blade into this screw head and start cranking on it and mess it up? No, I don't. But a lot of the things that are out there on the market, they're just they just look bulky to me, and that's why I haven't gotten one yet. Is I just don't want to. I don't want to add more weight to what I'm walking around with every day.
For sure. And I guess that's one of the nice things, if you do stick with buying more of the budget friendly entry level models, if you break them, it's not as big of a deal. But as we said, as you kind of progress through that ownership in pocket knives, they get more expensive, and you're pulling out of your pocket $100 knife, and then one small decision and you break it, you're like, oh no, I just tossed $100 bill out the window possibly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think that's something that a lot of people are gonna it's gonna resonate with them, because we struggle with that. With the with the releases that you guys have done recently, and coming up, what kind of feedback are you guys getting from people out there? What are how did things when they released? We chatted the first time. What were people really excited about? What are some things they're like, hey, can you guys do this, or can you guys do that, or what's what's the market saying?
Yeah, one of the positive things that Kershaw has going for it, is that we really strive to have something for everyone. There's a lot of different preferences in the knife world. Some people love assisted opening knives, and we really changed the marketplace back in the mid 90s with assisted openers. But I think as a lot of people kind of, as I talked about, progress through that knife journey, some of them veer off and they're like, I like the feel of a manual action. I like to be able to fidget with it, and so in this release, I feel like we did a great job of offering, again, something for everyone. We have the butterfly knife, which itself is a niche market, but those are passionate fans, right? And then we have our cargo and our debris, which are two manual opening mid locks. They have a really, if anybody that's listening knows the Leak really well, I would think of it like the Leak, but it's a manual opening. So it doesn't have assisted opening, but it has that same thin handle structure to it, really thin blade stock, really lightweight, and it's got a great textured grip. It's glass filled nylon, but the texture in the grip has diamonds going multi-directionally. So whether you're kind of doing a push cut and your thumb's kind of pushing forward in the handle, you have really great grip. Whether you're doing a pull cut, the same thing. If you're pulling your hand against the handle, you have the same grip that you would be pushing. And we have that. The cargo and the debris come in two different sizes, but they look identical otherwise. And then we have a Karambit, which is really the one of the newer kind of knife styles that we've kind of entered into. They're really tactical, kind of self-defense. There's a lot of people that do mixed martial arts or do self-defense courses. This is a really popular style of knife for them because they deploy really fast. They have a ring on the end of them so that you can spin grip holds really fast. You can go from a defensive posture to an aggressive posture with the knife really quickly. It has a really aggressive hawk bill blade shape, and so to describe to that somebody that can't see it right now, think of about like a hawk, right, or an eagle. They have a really curved and then pointy bill, and that's exactly how this blade shape looks like. But you don't have to be into tactical things to enjoy that type of blade shape because it's really utilitarian. It cuts boxes really well. It cuts rope really well because generally knife blades kind of sweep up. And when you're cutting certain things, as the knife blade slices through it, the object can roll off the top. Whereas a hawk bill goes the other way. It traps whatever you're cutting. So if you're trying to slice rope real fast, you're trying to cut a hard plastic, you don't get, sometimes, it can create a dangerous situation when you're sliding off of that with a lot of pressure behind it. And the hawk bill helps prevent that because it traps whatever you're cutting within the blade.
That makes a lot of sense. That, I was just thinking when you mentioned that there's certain knife owners that are real passionate about a particular style of knife, is I was thinking about diesel trucks, and it's like, we have people that listen who are hardcore Power Stroke fans or Duramax fans or Cummins fans, and that's what they pay attention to. That's where all their attention, their money, their investment, is going to. And I wanted to ask you, in the knife world, is it kind of like that as well? When somebody finds a particular style that they like, do they tend to stay there, or is it just they're knife fans, they're going to buy everything that is in the in the product line, or does it vary?
Yeah, that's a great question. There certainly are collectors out there that buy a wide range of things simply because they want the whole catalog.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like what I call a knife enthusiast, somebody that carries a knife every day because of the utilitarian purpose of it, but also just enjoys having a nice piece of, some people call it pocket jewelry with them, but just a nice accessory piece. Some people like nice watches, some people like, nice jewelry, some people like nice knives. When it comes to people like that, I think a lot of times you'll see them when they enter, like we talked about, they kind of stick towards the lower end models. Then they kind of get passionate about it and they move into the knife enthusiast category, which is typically your higher end premium materials like titanium or carbon fiber handles, high end blade steel, and then we often find that they prefer non-assisted models. It's like, if you have a sports car, do you really want an automatic transmission if you're really a sports car guy? Maybe, but a lot of times you want to be one with the car and you like a manual transmission.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of relate it like that. It's, you feel more in control of the knife. You feel there's more room for kind of high-end manufacturing and things like that. So certainly, absolutely, people kind of find their niche in the knife world and tend to stick within that. Certainly there is some crossover. Some guys will, they'll be willing to accept an assisted opener, even if that's not their preference, because they love the way it looks. So they love the other materials.
Yeah, I've noticed with myself, well, there's two things that really grab me. One is how the knife looks and the aesthetics of it. But you had mentioned, grip material and different things like that. I have found, things, it's so important. Like, it might look cool, but how does it feel? And I've, in my experience, found some designs or materials where it just doesn't, feel good in the hand. And then other ones feel, great. And I think that's one of the toughest things. When I'm online and, I'm looking at a website or I'm shopping for something, is trying to understand how is this knife going to, feel in my hand, or, what kind of traction am I going to get on it? And, when you guys are designing something, what goes into that part of it? Just the feel of it, that, when somebody's using it, it has that positive traction. It just feels good. You feel like you have control of the knife itself.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a lot of thought that goes into that. For example, the two new fixed blade knives that we just came out with, something like that, you wouldn't want a slick, smooth surface for the handle, because generally, those are geared towards more outdoors people, whether it be hikers, campers, hunters, anglers, things like that. And you're in any environment with that. As a hunter, your hand might be bloody, because you're processing animals. So you want something that's got a lot of grip to it in all conditions, right?
Yeah.
So that's something we take into consideration. What's the intended kind of use for this particular model, and what materials suit that best? On the enthusiast side of things, like you said, a lot of it is about looks. A lot of it is about, the action of the knife. And so the texture itself on the handle may not be the main thing that we focus on, versus something that we intend probably would be more utilized in the utilitarian standpoint, by a tradesperson or, something like that. Again, okay, we probably need some more grip on this handle. So maybe aluminum's not the best thing. Or if it is, maybe we put a traction insert in there or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's kind of the journey that I'm on. Is, I haven't really been into knives that long. I'm not necessarily a beginner, but I'm still trying to find, where's my lane, where's my niche, what are the things that I really like. So I look at everything, and it's not as overwhelming as it was in the beginning for me, because I would, go on a website and I see thousands of knives and I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for. I don't know what kind of, blade steel I need. I don't know what blade length, what kind of blade shape. And, I'm still trying to find, my niche. And like I said, just from, chatting with people and, and automotive friends that I have, we're into these things, and some of them are, more progressed in it, and they know exactly what they want. They know exactly the blade shape, and they've had the same knife for 20 years or 10 years or something like that. And I'm kind of the new kid on the block with, hey, I just got this, this new one, and, I really like it. So it's really kind of cool to hear that journey and understand the enthusiasm of it, because that's why, people listen to the Diesel podcast, is they're passionate about their trucks. They're passionate about, either where it came from, what they've done to it, how they use it, if it makes them money because they have a construction company or hot shotting. So I see a lot of synergy there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, just to give maybe a little piece of advice to people listening that are starting that journey, don't be afraid to start small, and not necessarily in terms of the pocket knife itself, but in terms of budget standpoint, because it may not be ultimately where you land in the knife world, but it'll get you a good idea of what you maybe like and don't like. And so we often see people start with assisted opening because you're just not sure, like, okay, how do I make sure that I can open this knife every time consistently and make sure it has good lockup? Where assisted takes all of that out of the equation, just like an automatic transmission does. You push the gas pedal, the car goes, you hit the brake, it stops. So I would say start with, an inexpensive assisted opener, and then just kind of understand that when you get it, it's going to be a learning process, and then kind of take away what you like, what you don't like, and apply that to the next purchase.
That's what I really like about what Kershaw does in the product line, how it's scaled no matter where you're at in this process. And when I started, I did it the opposite way. I just asked people, hey, what kind of, what brand or what knife do you like? And I just went and bought it. And now it sits on the corner of my desk, and I never use it. And every time I look at, what it just wasn't for me, but I spent, a decent amount of money on it. And because, I didn't know like all the options that you guys had. So, somebody just said, hey, this brand X, this is what I've used it forever. And it's just, I just see dollar bills. They're $100 bills sitting on the end of this desk. So I really like how you guys do that. And there's entry level, there's people who are collectors. No matter what it is, there's something in your product line for somebody.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest things we strive for, outside of the fact of always offering a quality value packed product backed by, our limited lifetime warranty. Is we want, it doesn't matter whether, a job part-time coming out of high school and you want to get into construction, or you're at managerial level and you work in an office. We want something that fits what you want in terms of the technology you want, the action that you want, and the price point you can afford. So we have a really wide catalog, and yeah, it can be overwhelming because of that, but there is purpose there. We want something for everyone, and we really take pride in being able to do that.
Now, you guys have something coming up right about the time this podcast, goes live. You guys have something that's getting ready to drop, and I wanted to have you chat with us and our audience a little bit about it. So people who listen to Diesel podcasts, they can jump in on it and be aware of the promotion you guys have going on.
Yeah. So when this drops, I think it'll already be live. What we do occasionally, a few times a year, is we'll do a limited edition drop exclusively on our website, KershawKnives.com. It's called our Factory Special Series. So it's a variation of an existing production model with some unique features. So in this case, it's a variation on the leak. It's the 1660 digital gray. So it's got a hydro dip, kind of dark digital gray camo pattern on the handle. It has a nice black wash finish. Obviously, our assisted opening mechanism and our Sandvik Steel. It's going to go for $60 retail on our website. Limited quantities. They generally sell out within 2-3 days. They're great. Collectors love these things because it's a unique piece that you just can't find at the store. And as well, people that are looking for a new everyday carry, sometimes it strikes their fancy, whether it be the material that we used in the handle like we talked about, or the blade steel or blade finish. And so check it out. It comes with special packaging. They're great conversation pieces with your other knife friends and things like that. And plus, you're getting a lot of value in it. You're not paying an exorbitant amount of money because it's a limited edition. It's on par with the regular knife price.
That's really cool, because a lot of times things like that, even if it's not knives, it can be other types of items. Whenever it's limited edition, it has that premium kind of price to it, and it I know I found myself, I'll hesitate a little bit. I'll go, do I really want to spend all that money on this particular thing? And so for something to be able to hit that price point where we want something unique, our friends may or may not have it, is something that it's really cool like that. I think that's going to be awesome. And as far as being able to see when you guys are dropping like this limited edition knives, or you guys have a promotion going on, or something new is just coming to market, where's the best place for people to be able to see it? Is it YouTube? Is it Instagram? Where should people go and follow you guys?
Yeah. So, email subscription is a great way to do it. That way you don't have to constantly, check Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, things like that. We'll let you know when we're dropping a limited edition, or whether there's a discount code or anything like that available. We do promotions like that. I'd say, once every other month or so, whether it be just a discount on a particular model or site-wide, things like that. But if you're on social media and you like to engage with brands that you're fans of, Instagram is our most popular channel, but we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube. We do create content specific to those channels. But I would say our biggest platform is Instagram. We love engaging with fans on there. We try and reply to comments as best we can, reply to DMs, and really take feedback that we get there to heart.
I see that a lot, yeah, on your guys' Instagram. People ask a question and you guys answer it for them, and it's really cool to see a company do that, because when I think of Kershaw, I think of this big company, this industry leader, and a lot of times, even in automotive, I don't necessarily see Ford or GM or Ram replying to somebody's comment on Instagram or answering their question, and so to see you guys do it, it's really cool, and I think it gives us as consumers confidence that you guys are listening to us, to the feedback we might have, the things that we want, and it creates that relationship between the company and the ultimately the buyer, or the consumer, where if I have a question or I need help with something, I know you guys are there and are willing to answer. And that's what I hear from people when when I'm chatting knives and people talk about Kershaw is specifically that. So I know people out there definitely appreciate it, and it's something that is really, really important when we're getting into knives and investing, and I'm looking at my collection and I'm like, I've spent a lot of money on this so far, relatively speaking. I'm sure people have spent a ton, but I can see it growing, and I see the investment in it. So it's always a blast to chat with you, Dominic, and learn more, and the information, the things that we chat about helps me on my kind of personal journey of collecting and looking at things and buying things. So I appreciate your time today, chatting with us, and letting our audience know some new products you guys have, and also this limited edition run that you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here, and always glad to talk knives, and truck driver myself, not a diesel, F-150, but I love trucks too. I use mine very, very well. So
Yeah, it's the truck. I found the reason that I originally got into trucks was just I needed the utility of it, and that's the thing with knives that I find as well, is it's the utility of it. And whether it's something I carry in my pocket, or I'm opening boxes, or whatever else, there's so much crossover between the two, and that's what I enjoy learning about. So we'll keep working on you, and maybe get you into Power Stroke or Cummins or Duramax one day and talk about a build that you got. But yeah, it was really really cool chatting with you today, and learning more.
yeah, I love it. Thanks for having me on, and happy to share all our information with all your listeners.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, make sure and head on over to our Discord. You're going to find a link down below to join. It's completely free. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters: Texas Diesel Supply, Wrights Diesel Services, Kaleb, Tyler Loewen, and 23 Diesel. We appreciate them, and all of our other Patreon members, our Discord members, all of you that have followed us since 2016, with the support that you've given us, with guests that you want to hear about, or topics that you're not hearing anywhere else that you'd like us to be able to get a guest on and speak with them, whether it's about EPA stuff, emission law, new turbos, new transmissions, electric vehicles, whatever it be. We appreciate your support. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.